The state gets its power from you. Every badge, every gun, every law. You authorize the violence with your ballot and your all, but you don't even understand the weapon in your hand. Your children playing with grenades, making demands you can't command. You wanna be controlled, can't imagine governing yourself, so you vote for someone else to make your choices, run your health. And because you can't handle freedom, cause you need a master's hand, the rest of us are shackled to your incapacity to stand. You wield the state's violence, but you're ignorant and unfit. You don't know what you're doing, don't understand the power you commit. You can't be free, so none of us can. You need control, so you control every man. You vote with the violence you don't comprehend. You're unfit to wield the power you defend. The state gets its legitimacy from your hand, but you're too weak to govern yourself, so you enslave the land. Because you don't want freedom, we all must live in change. You're the tyrant and the slave, the public unfit to reign. You don't want autonomy, it terrifies your soul. You need someone to tell you how to live, what's your role? You can't make decisions, can't take responsibility, so you vote to build a cage and lock us all inside with your democracy. The founders feared the mob and they were right to be afraid, not because you're evil, but because you're slaves who vote for raids against anyone who wants to live outside your fear. You can't handle being free, so freedom must disappear. You authorize the violence, but you don't understand the cost. You're wielding thermonuclear weapons while you're morally lost. You can't be free, so none of us can. You need control, so you control every man. You vote with the violence you don't comprehend. You're unfit to wield the power you defend. The state gets its legitimacy from your hand, but you're too weak to govern yourself, so you enslave the land. Because you don't want freedom, we all must live in chains. You're the tyrant and the slave, the public unfit to reign. You don't know what to do with freedom, so you voted away for everyone. You're ignorant of the power you wield, but you wield it like a loaded gun. You want daddy government to tell you what to think, what to say, and because you can't govern yourself, the rest of us must obey. You're the majority in democracy, the source of the state's legitimacy, but your children playing with power unfit for the authority you decree. The state doesn't oppress you, you oppress through the state. You vote for the violence, you authorize my fate. And the coolest part, you don't even know what you're doing. You think you're participating while freedom you're removing. You can't handle autonomy, can't make decisions on your own, so everyone must be controlled because you can't be left alone. You don't apprehend the authority you can't bear. You're slaves who vote for slavery and call that system fair. You can't be free, so none of us can. You need control, so you control every man. You vote with the violence you don't comprehend. You're unfit to wield the power you defend. The state gets its legitimacy from you, but you don't know what to do with the freedom you were given, so you vote to chain us too. Because you can't govern yourself, we all must be enslaved, yeah. You're the public, the unfit wielder, the power that you gave. Ignorant and wanting change, you vote to control us all. The natural slave, the natural rate, majority way. You don't wanna be free, so freedom must die. You're unfit to wield this power, but you wield it anyway. The state gets its legitimacy from you, and that's the tragedy. Democracy put power in the hands of those too weak to let us be.
Hi everybody. So I know let me make sure y'all can hear me. Okay, I think you guys can hear me. If not, just let me know in the comment section. I'm using StreamYard today because I'm using Restream because I didn't renew my StreamYard subscription. As you all know, I do have a sponsor, but I don't know, I didn't contact them. So anyway, here we are, we're back to using StreamYard, and I know I just played that song on the last live stream, but I try to pick the song that goes along with the topic. So that song is from my soundtrack. You guys can check it out. That is on my channel. But anyway, I guess I'll go ahead and get started. Because as you all know, I have been using the term natural slave a lot. I did mention the term in my book, and I did reference Aristotle, but I just want to mention it now so I can explain it. So in book 1 of the Politics, Aristotle argued that human beings are not uniform in their capacity for self-governance. He posited that there are natural masters and natural slaves. Some men or some human beings, according to their nature, are basically born to be enslaved. I'm going to give y'all the cliff notes of it because anyway, he basically said that they don't have the capacity for reasoning, to be productive. I'm going to be honest. He did make a racial distinction. He basically said that anybody who wasn't Greek was a natural slave. I'm not even going to get into that because I don't think that is relevant. I just want to talk about their characteristics. And by the way, the reason he said the Greeks were natural masters, it wasn't necessarily because of their genetics. It was because of their geographic location, because of where they lived. I guess they were naturally more dominant. There's a lot that Aristotle had to say about natural slaves, but I just want to talk about it today in the context of democracy. Let me start off by reading this direct quote from him. It is clear that then some men are by nature free and others slaves. And I know this is controversial because when you use the term slave, a lot of times people assume that there's a racial connotation. That's not the way that I'm using slavery in this context, and that's not the way that I use it in my book. I basically say that everybody who submits themselves is a slave. Anybody who supports democracy, anybody who subordinates themselves to the master state, all these people are slaves. It doesn't matter what your race is. So I don't want anybody to go there and think that that's what I'm doing. No, this has nothing to do with race. It's about the way that people have an aversion to freedom, that they beg the state to rule over them. They don't even see it as an injustice. They want to be slaves. They absolutely support this system. They want to be slaves and they want their children to be slaves. They think there's something noble about it. So there are natural slaves who are just slaves by their nature. Then they're slaves, by convention. And then there are other slaves who are unnatural slaves. They may be captured in war. They may be sold into servitude, or they may be born to enslaved persons. I would say most of us, at least in this community, at least on my channel, most of us fall under the former category. We may not be natural slaves, but our parents bred us into the system. They had no objection to being slaves to the state. It was good enough for them. Now they think it should be good enough for us. So when you're a slave against your nature and against your will, that is an injustice. And I get it. Most people don't have a problem with it. They just submit. They obey the laws. They don't have any problem with democracy. They don't have any problem with capitalism, with being a wage slave. Those people are natural slaves. That's just the way they are. You can't change them. I don't know if it's genetics. I don't know if it's brainwashing. I don't know. I know if I were to go with Aristotle, Aristotle would say it's genetics, but I don't really want to go there. I don't know what their reasoning is. I think it's primarily because they benefit from the system. Because they do lack the capacity to reason. They lack the capacity to govern themselves. And so they're basically scared little creatures who need somebody to rule over them. If you were to offer them freedom, they would reject it. I did mention. I mentioned I didn't go into this part of it. of what Aristotle said. I did say in my book that slaves are living properties of their masters, and so therefore their masters have a duty to provide for their living property, which is why I'm against this whole statist system, because although you don't own your life, although you are owned by the state for all intents and purposes, the state has no duty to provide for its living property. You're a slave who must provide for yourself. How does that work? That's the whole benefit of being a slave, is that your master is supposed to provide for you. So you get no provision. You don't really get any protection, and yet you're a slave nevertheless. It just makes no damn sense. I am very hard pressed to see how this system benefits anybody. I don't see why anybody would accept it, why they would not rebel against it. I don't understand. But then again, I'm not a natural slave. So this is not me trying to be condescending. I just don't understand the way these people think. I've been trying to figure it out. I did have a discussion with Witchy Bitchy on her channel the other day. I don't know if she's here, but yeah, she helps to clarify the way most people think. And because the way they think is so foreign to the way I think, I have to have people explain it to me. I don't have the same fears that other people, but mainly because I don't give a shit about dying. I don't cling to life. I don't need the state to protect me. If I die, so what? That's not the way other people see it. They're terrified. And so they're willing to trade their liberty for security, which according to Benjamin Franklin, those who do that deserve neither. And so the natural slave does not have the capacity to engage in independent reasoning. He can only understand the reasoning that is given to him by his master. And so I hope I'm not going out of order, because I do want to go step by step. But basically, the natural slave cannot achieve eudaimonia. If you guys know about eudaimonia, I've talked about that many times. Basically, eudaimonia is basically finding your purpose. It's not necessarily happiness. It's basically, I would equate it to self-actualization. Because happiness and pleasure is not necessarily a virtue. It can be a vice when it gets away of virtue. It can lead to cowardice. It can lead to gluttony. It can lead to disloyalty. So eudaimonia is not necessarily happiness. It's living a virtuous life. But in order to have virtue, you have to have the capacity to reason. You have to have agency to make decisions on your own accord. The natural slave does not have this ability. The natural slave only does what his master tells him to do. Whatever his master says is virtuous, is virtuous. So the natural slave gets his, pat on the head from his master. He may display virtue by doing things that society says is noble. You know, I am a veteran, so I'm not going to disparage veterans. I mean, I think I did it for a different reason, but whatever. People serve in the military for different reasons. But the natural slave may think, oh, I'm going to serve my country. I'm going to get a pat on the head and I'm virtuous. He can't really create his own virtue. His virtue comes from his master. Again, that doesn't mean that all military servicemen and servicewomen think this way. Because I certainly did not. And they tried really hard to brainwash me. It never really stuck. Yeah, you say this, but I'm really here. I mean, I may be loyal to my countrymen. I may be loyal to other soldiers. Am I loyal to the state? Am I loyal to the corporations? No, I'm not. I took an oath to the Constitution. The Constitution means something to me. The principles of liberty and freedom mean something to me. But when you go beyond that and you're starting wars of aggression to maintain capitalism, um, yeah, I may give lip service because I'm trying to extract, but I don't really believe that. So you can call it what you want. I don't think that necessarily makes me disloyal. I consider myself a statesman. I am loyal to, well, I'm loyal to the American people to the extent that they are loyal to themselves and the Constitution. When they betray themselves and start serving the master. By the way, I'm getting ahead of myself, but another thing that Aristotle said is that basically the natural slave is not an autonomous being. The natural slave is part of the master's body, just like an arm or a leg. He or she is an extension of the master. Does not have a separate identity, does not have a separate capacity for reasoning. His master business is his business. And this is exactly how these statists think. They will go against their own rational self-interest and put their master's interests before their own, even before the interests of their own children. They feel that they have a duty to pay taxes, even if it would cause them to starve. They feel that they have a duty to procreate and give the master state more slaves. They feel compelled to obey the law even when the law goes against their rational interests, even when a law is manifestly unjust. You can't reason with them. You can't actually explain to them this is irrational, this is unjust, because in their minds, their master is like they are one. There is a unity between them and the state. He did make a distinction between children. Children, they may not have the capacity, they may not be born with the capacity for reasoning, but at some point they will develop that capacity. The natural slave will not. The natural slave will be permanently incapacitated. He does not become sovereign upon adulthood. Um, and what Aristotle said actually is that liberating the natural slave is not even in a natural slave's best interest, because the natural slave actually benefits from being enslaved. I know, again, don't think that I'm talking about something racial. It has nothing to do with race. These people want to be controlled. They want to be subjugated. They benefit from it. So if you try to liberate them, you're actually harming them, because they can't survive without a master. Now let me talk about the traits of the master and the traits of the slave. According to Aristotle, the natural master possesses two of the following traits. Or, well, it may be two, more than two. Foresight, the capacity to plan and deliberate about the future. Autonomous reasoning, practical wisdom generated from within, not borrowed from someone else. Most people don't have this. They get their information from the media, from the miseducation system. They have no independent thoughts. the capacity for virtue in its full sense, this is self-directed virtue. It's not virtue based on obedience. Most people don't have this. I take issue with this last one, but the right to rule, because according to Aristotle, the ruling principle is innate in all things. The problem with Aristotle's natural slave theory is that he basically puts you into two camps. You're either a natural slave or a natural master. He never accounted for the fact that there may be people who neither want to be a master or a slave. You just may want to be left alone. Now, let's get to the natural slave. The natural slave has no deliberative faculty of his own. The natural slave participates in rational principles enough to apprehend them, but not enough where he can generate reasoning on his own. He can follow the reasoning of others, but he can't actually generate it. He talked about the physical abilities of the natural slave. He has the capacity for labor. Right? He may be a wage slave. He may be able to follow orders, but he can't actually create orders. He can't lead. He can't even engage in independent thought. He can't even evaluate the work process, the workflow to see whether they are efficient. He can't do that. He has no capacity for full virtue. His virtue comes from his master, it is not self-produced. Unlike the child, his incapacity is permanent. He will never rise above his station of being a natural slave. It is not temporary. His status is fixed from birth. So he basically was born to be a slave. He basically was born to be ruled over. And what makes it so bad is that the natural slave doesn't even have a problem with it. He doesn't rebel. He just submits. I've already talked about eudaimonia, so I'm not even going to go there. Right, so the natural slave can carry out the judgment of others, but he has no actual independent judgment. He can't even make decisions based on his rational self-interest because he doesn't even know what his self-interests are. He really has no interest that is separate from his master's interests. So yes, he may be able to make minor decisions about what to eat for dinner, about what clothes to put on, what car to drive. But when it comes to the purpose of his life, or like the purpose or like his role in society, no, he does not create that at all. He has limited choices that his master has given him, and he chooses among those choices. So whatever choices, yes, he may choose the best choice out of among other choices, but he's not going to color outside the lines. He's not going to decide, okay, well, maybe the master is wrong. Maybe I should be doing this instead. Maybe I shouldn't procreate. Maybe the master is oppressing me with his occupational license requirements. No, whatever the master says is right. I'm just going to follow like a good little slave. I'm just going to keep my head down. If I obey, if I'm obedient enough, I will be rewarded for it. And maybe I'll even get to rule over some of the other slaves. I'm not going to get emancipation for myself, but maybe I can move up in a hierarchy. Now, Aristotle did explain the role of, I don't know if you want to call them citizens or just, he explains the state's role. And spoiler alert, Aristotle rejected the social contract. He first starts out by explaining the household, which I've talked about that many times before too. That well, he talked about men's roles, but he also talked about women's roles. I'm going to speak on the man's role as the quote unquote master of his house. He talked about the golden mean and how you should have enough wealth. It's basically a vice to be too wealthy, and it's also a vice to not have enough wealth. I've talked about that. I talked about that when I did my video about money chasing. But he basically said that the master of the house has a duty to provide for for his entire household, including the women, the children, and the slaves. He was a proponent of actual chattel slavery. But everyone within that household has a function, has a purpose. And so he basically made an analogy between a household and a state, that everyone who exists within a state has a purpose. And these are basically complementary. I mean, it's a little bit more complicated than that, but I'm just trying to simplify it. So a village is simply an arrangement of households functioning together the way a household members functions together. A state is simply an arrangement of villages functioning together the same way the household functions. And at every level of the chain, the same principle holds. So this is where he rejects the notion of the social contract. According to Aristotle, the state is prior to the individual. I don't know how this makes sense. I'm still trying to figure out what he meant by that. According to Aristotle, the state is a creation of nature and prior to the individual. According to Aristotle, man is by nature a political animal, and anyone who would live entirely outside of society would either have to be a beast or a god. I mean, I don't agree with this at all. I don't believe that we are all political animals. I don't believe that we are all hierarchical. But just for the sake of this discussion, I'm just explaining it. I don't know how he arrived at that conclusion. I guess because of his civilization, that's just the way it was. By the way, he also said that because we are by nature political animals, civils, well, okay, he called what he called barbarians. Barbarians basically have no right to exist independent of civilization. They benefit from civilization, so therefore it is right and just to force them to be civilized through violence. And I know, I mean, most people don't realize this, but this is the way that this is their take on politics today. They do believe that they're doing the so-called primitive people a favor by civilizing them, even if it is done by force. This is what they all agree. Even though they don't know that it came from Aristotle, this is what they all believe. He basically says that the state is a natural organism. It's not a social construct. It's not a social contract. Humans naturally form a state. I know we've talked about this on the channel. I don't agree. I don't agree that humans naturally form a state, which is why they have to be forced to become civilized through violence. It is not a natural, organic choice. And so it's basically an inversion of the social contract. Humans don't have sovereignty that they give to the state. The state existed first. I don't even know how that's possible. I've only read this. I read it last night, and I'm still trying to figure out what he meant by this. And so democracy I don't know. I think in theory they're sort of rejecting they're sort of rejecting John Locke and embracing Aristotle, even though they claim to be embracing Locke, that we do have pre-political rights. They seem to think that our rights come from the state, that there are no pre-political rights. There is no individual sovereignty. And they will give lip service to this and say that, oh, we have natural rights, but that's not what they really believe. There is nothing that is beyond the reach of the state. They will regulate a woman's body. They will regulate life and death, private property rights. The state clearly does not believe that we have natural rights. The state clearly believes that we are natural slaves and we're just incompetent and too stupid to be free ourselves, to make our own decisions. And this may be true for the overwhelming majority, but what about the rest of us? What about the rest of us who are not like that? We're just trapped. And this is why democracy leads to tyranny. Because the very natural slaves who are incapable of governing themselves they're now given power to govern other people. And they don't even know what to do with that power. They don't even think that they are responsible. When you guys listen to that debate, that woman, AVG, went straight, Gwen Stefani, I'm just a girl. I have no power. All these men are so much more powerful than I am. You don't realize how much power you have? Not only are you a participant in democracy, but you are an attorney. You are an officer of the court. You wield the state's violence. You have a lot of power. It doesn't matter how big this man is. All you have to do is file, I don't know, a motion, file, I don't know, some injunctive or declaratory, a request for declaratory relief. And all this violence will be inflicted on other people at your hands. And they don't even realize this. They don't even realize how much power they have. They want to offshore it to whoever their politician is. That wasn't me. That was my politician. No, you put that politician in office. You have given legitimacy to the entire system. You support it. This is your system. Own it. It came from you. So when that police officer is deleting another one of your fellow citizens, when a woman's reproductive rights are being infringed upon, when the right to self-determination is being infringed upon, and people don't even have the right to control their own lives or their deaths, that is your fault. That is directly a result of your support of democracy. And you don't even understand your role in it because you are a natural slave. That's the paradox. That you have no business voting in the first place because you're too damn ignorant. You don't have the capacity for deliberating, for reasoning, for judgment. What ends up happening is those who do have the capacity for independent reasoning, all they have to do is engage in manufactured consent. All they have to do is indoctrinate you, poison your mind, and they can play you like a damn fiddle. Get you to do whatever the hell. My phone is going off like crazy and it's annoying. Annoying as hell. I'm about to turn it off. It's like they don't even think about the long-term consequences of their policy decisions. It's just, oh, it felt right at the time. Really? You want to support some bullshit war because television told you to do that? Tens of thousands of people died. You have destabilized the global economy, and you don't think that you're responsible for it? Oh, that wasn't me. That was the president. You supported this bullshit. It's on you. And so when the chickens come home to roost and the economy is in the toilet because of policies that you supported, that is your damn fault. And you're not a victim. You brought it on your damn self. You support police having unlimited authority to go around harassing people, deleting people, and then claiming qualified immunity. And you watched television and you said, okay, well, those people were so disrespectful. If they just obeyed authority, if they had respect, maybe this wouldn't happen. You didn't give a fuck. And so when it happened to you or when it happened to one of your children, okay, now you get the damn wake-up call, but it's too damn late. You have to actually go through it before you actually realize that this shit is illegitimate. You don't have any empathy. You empathize more with the powerful elite than you have empathy for your own self and your own damn children. You are a part of the master's body. You will put the master's interest before your own. And you don't even realize that you're doing it. You have no capacity to deliberate. you become a slave, or you become manipulated by demagoguery, right? By these factions of, oh, the right versus left. The left is evil. Oh no, the right is evil. They're so degenerate. They want to kill babies. Oh no, the conservatives just want to, I don't know what is their pet issue. They just want to round up illegal immigrants. I don't know. I don't know what bullshit issue people care about. I think it's all a bunch of nonsense. The whole us versus them is complete bullshit. There are no two sides. That's why I'm not really interested in politics. I used to be. I used to watch that bullshit constantly. I used to watch CNN and C-SPAN. I actually used to call C-SPAN several times. I still write my officials, even though I'm not registered to vote. I may even canvass for James Tallarico. It's not because I actually support democracy, and I will not actually be voting for him. It's mainly just because I believe that there needs to be. Gosh, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't even be doing that, but it's like, you believe that maybe if there's in my state, I believe that we do have a power structure that needs to be broken up. I believe that my state is completely corrupt. We need to get some fresh voices in the mix. It's not that I believe democracy is effective, but there needs to be some type of competition, even though I don't believe there's real competition between the two-party system. But what I will say is that when I write these Republicans, it could be either way, because it could just as well go the other way. When I write these Republicans, they are completely unresponsive. I wrote Trump. I didn't even get a damn response. I will say I wrote the Bush administration. The Bush administration responded. Obama responded. I didn't get anything from Trump. And I'm not even just talking about at the federal level. I do tend to get responses from the senators and the congressmen, but it seems very generic. It's not even, it's a non sequitur. You're not even responding to what the hell I said. Democracy doesn't result in the overt tyranny that you would see in other political systems. It looks like freedom because ostensibly it's coming from the people, but what it does is it stupefies people. They become very lazy, apathetic. They will do a straight party ticket. They don't actually consider the individual candidates. They don't really know what's going on, and it's like, oh, I did my duty. I voted all Republican, all Democrat. Never mind the fact there may actually have been candidates that you agree with, but you don't even know about them because all you did a straight party ticket. Did you even consider the third party candidates, the Greens, the Libertarians, the actual real independents who may not have a party affiliation? They just don't do their due diligence. These candidates fill out questionnaires. They're asked questions, and they give their position on the issues. I'm not saying that they're always honest, but I actually read those damn questionnaires when I did vote. I would read all of their questionnaires, and then I would go in with a list of candidates that I supported based on their responses. I didn't go by what the media said. I went by the questionnaires, and it would run the gamut. I would vote for Republicans, Democrats, Greens, Libertarians. I voted for the actual candidate, not just the party. I was not a low information voter. I actually took the time and I took my vote seriously, but most people don't do that. They don't even know who their politicians are because they didn't vote for the politicians, they voted for the party. So if you're too ignorant to inform yourself before voting, why are you voting? Do you not understand that voting is violence? Do you not understand that elections have consequences, that they actually affect real people? I know people are going to make appeals to necessity. Well, if democracy is so terrible, what is the alternative? Um, I would say anarchy, but I know most people are not going to support that. But if you're not going to go full anarchy, what about classical liberalism? What about I'm going to stick with classical liberalism because I think if they would have just stuck with that, maybe things wouldn't have turned to shit. I actually consider myself to be a classical liberal. It's just that because government has run amok and because they have exceeded the scope of their legitimate purpose, I really have to go full anarchist on them. I'm almost done and I'm going to get to these comments. The fact that we have the ability to vote does not make the citizen the master. There is no sovereign citizen. You're not sovereign. You are a slave. They gave you limited options. They spoon-fed you information and told you exactly what to do, who to vote for, and you acted accordingly. That is not a free society. All you did was allow yourself to be manipulated by these demagogues. He who lives by the legalized sword shall perish by the legalized sword. This is a quote from Ayn Rand. I didn't put that in my book, but it's something that I have mentioned. I don't know. I don't know if I mentioned it on this channel, but I have mentioned it in my regular life. So, what choice is there for the sovereign individual? The natural slaves enjoy their enslavement. They have no capacity to reason. They vote against their rational self-interests. They don't want anything to change. They just want to obey. Of course, Aristotle never considered this third option. According to Aristotle, you're either a natural slave or a natural master. This whole binary choice is, well, I guess that's what you get from civilization. It's either ruled or be ruled. Why don't people want to be free? I don't think they even have to be tricked into being slaves. This is their natural constitution. This is what they gravitate towards. It actually is very attractive and appealing to them. They actually hate freedom. If you were to offer freedom to them, they would attack you. Freedom is accountability. They don't want to be accountable for their choices. They don't want to govern themselves. They don't want to be responsible when things go wrong. They want somebody else to figure things out. They just want to sit on their asses, pay taxes, obey, and then just have faith. It's based in mysticism. They have faith that the state knows better than them. So they don't really believe in democracy. They don't believe that power comes from the people. They believe that state power is self-effectuating. That I just wrote this article for Substack, which I haven't put out yet. It's really about judicial supremacy and how the courts claim to have inherent authority. How can you have inherent authority if all power is supposed to come from the people? So now you can completely take the people out the picture. It's not based on delegated authority. The state can just claim unlimited authority without ever having to appeal to the people, ever. They don't even have to litigate criminal cases in the name of the people. Back in the day, it used to be the people, I don't know how they do it in other states, but in my state, they don't do it anymore. It used to be the people of California versus so-and-so. Now it's just California versus so-and-so. They have taken the people out of the picture entirely. It's just the state being an end unto itself. I haven't gotten to Rich Fromm. I'm eventually going to talk about him. I don't know that it's compelling enough for me to do an entire live stream about it, but he did have this writing called Escape from Freedom. Basically, freedom is isolating. It separates you from your bonds that you have to your family, from fixed trade. You basically have to stand alone and accept the weight of your own decisions. It results in automation, well, automaton conformity, excuse me. It makes you feel like you belong to a group. Everybody else it's just monkey see, monkey do. You don't really feel like you're submitting to anyone because this is just what everyone else does. They're slaves, you're a slave, so you're basically comparing yourselves to, it's basically a race to the bottom. How much more can you subjugate yourself? Everyone else is doing it. You don't even know what freedom looks like. You can't even conceive of it. Now, the state benefits from this arrangement. The state benefits from your labor, from your submission. Their esteem is built at your expense. They absolutely enjoy ruling over you. They think that they have a purpose because you guys, I'm not saying you guys like those who are listening, but the public are a bunch of incompetent children. Many of them are cluster B. They do have a God complex. And I'm not just talking about Trump, by the way. Trump is just one example among many. You may have other narcissists at the local level, which I'm not sure that Trump is a narcissist. I don't know. Maybe he is. I don't think he has very good virtues, but I don't know. I think we use that term. We use that term too much. I don't think he really has any empathy, but who knows? The natural slave Unfortunately, the natural slave is your threat. He's a threat because, like I said, according to Aristotle, the natural slave is part of the master's body. It's no different from an arm or a leg. So if the state is your enemy, then the natural slave is also your enemy because they're going to do the state's bidding. They're going to report you. They're going to engage in surveillance on the master's behalf. Excuse me. They will enforce it. It's not even just about law enforcement. No, the natural slaves are also enforcers. You have eyes on you at all times, even your private conversations. They're going to report you. They actually resent the fact that you want to liberate yourself. How dare you? Why can't you be loyal? And you've heard these people. You've heard these people who I've debated on my channel and other channels, how they're so loyal to the damn state. How dare you be disloyal to the state? The very state that has oppressed you and made your life a living hell. You should be grateful because the state has protected you. Why? Because you're basically holding a mirror up to them. They're looking at you and comparing themselves to you. They know that you are as different as night and day. When they see your capacity for being an autonomous, sovereign human being, they recognize their own shortcomings. They know that they're feckless. They know that they don't have the capacity for reasoning. They don't even understand why you would take your mind to that place. Why can't you just be a slave like us? And I'm very familiar with this way of thinking because I heard it from my own father. He constantly tried to program me to toe the line, to just be a good little slave. I don't think he really taught me much else about life other than how to be a slave, how to submit. I'm not going to speak ill of him because he's not here, but I don't respect a man who would teach his son to be a slave. What do you think? You're protecting your son by doing that? No, you're not. Okay, I'll stop. I'm not going to be disrespectful because I'm sure he's not the only one. I'm sure these same conversations are being had all over the country. But that's all you have to offer your child is a life of servitude and subjugation? Why did you even have any children? You're not even going to do shit to protect your own children that you forced to exist. I do not respect that at all. I'm sorry, but that is no way to live. A life of subjugation is no life at all. And I know it doesn't bother most people. It bothers me to my fucking core. I do not enjoy being the state's bitch. And I don't understand how other people do it so willingly and it doesn't even bother them. They're never going to dismantle the state no matter how oppressed they are. No matter how much they see people like Renee Good getting shot in the face. No matter how many lives are being destroyed through occupational licenses, through tariffs, through zoning laws, through illegitimate monopolies over fair trade. Through traffic laws, which have nothing to do with public safety, but they're just trying to extract to generate revenue for these municipalities. They see all of that and they sign up for it. Not only do they sign up for it for themselves, they will constrict you into this bullshit. They will force children into this oppressive ass system and don't even feel guilty about it. They will do it in cold blood. And they think that you should be grateful. You should be grateful for the opportunity to be enslaved. So if you are an unnatural slave, such as mine, yes, I'm a slave, but it is unnatural. It is against my nature. I don't enjoy it. I don't accept it. I'm not like these other people. I'm not. And I never will be. So for those of you who are unnatural slaves, you need to stop measuring yourself to them, because they're not even on the same frequency as you. They don't think anything like you. They don't want to be liberated. They don't want to be free. They don't want the consequences and the responsibility of being free. They enjoy being enslaved. I can't emphasize this enough. They are proud of it. They wear it as a badge of honor. They take comfort in having a steady paycheck and getting the state's approval in the form of occupational license. Look at me. I got my license. Never mind the fact that they should have the right to earn a livelihood without the state's permission. But so what? They're part of an exclusive club which the state is going to maintain through violence, and they're perfectly fine with it. Never mind the fact that they could lose their license and they have no control over it. They're more concerned with the opportunity to prevent someone else from getting the license. I know this word woke is overused also. They don't want to be woke. They want to be ignorant. It's like the allegory of the cave. They're afraid to go towards the light. They want to hide in the dark. So there is a third choice. It's not just being a natural master or a natural slave. You may be a natural sovereign individual who is forced to be a slave. And there basically is no answer for you. I'm not sure what you're supposed to do. I don't think living off the grid is an answer. I don't think giving up your driver's license, all that bullshit that they tell you to do. I am man, I don't consent. They don't give a shit about that. I don't think there really are any real solutions. I wish I could offer something. I don't know. With that being said, I guess I will go through some of these comments. Oh gosh, I didn't expect there to be. Okay, well, if anybody wants to come up, I guess I can post a link. I don't know if Pastor D is here, but unfortunately I had to use Restream because, well, I'll email you separately. We can see if I should renew StreamYard or stick to this. By the way, y'all, I think I'm going to go ahead and file my nonprofit this weekend. And so once I do that, oh, Pastor D is here. Okay, so I guess you heard that. Let's go through some of these comments. Hey, Witchy. Yeah, me too. You and me both. We both were in the military, but we still managed to not get brainwashed. Okay, well, I did post a link, so anybody's welcome to come up. Let me make sure. Let me do this again. Hi, Fatima.
Hey,
Wait a
what's
minute.
up? How you?
All
Yeah,
right.
I'm here.
Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah, I
hear
was
you
on mute.
now.
Yeah. How you doing? It's been a while. It's been a break.
Just trying to survive through hot weather. It's so miserable here.
Oh,
Well, you know, we
yeah.
got one month of this weather, and then it'll start cooling down.
Oh, yeah. Here it was pretty freaking scorching too.
Pastor D, let's see if I can hear you. Nope.
Hmm? Oh, I can't hear him if he's talking. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. He always has problems, but we'll see. I can go back to using StreamYard, but I guess I'll email you and then we'll work something out. The main reason is because I've been so busy. I don't really, you know what I mean? If somebody's sponsoring you, you almost feel obligated to keep, pushing out more content.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Someone's sponsoring you. Yeah. That's a pretty interesting arc that's going on there for you. I hope it goes well. Yeah. But like, yeah, to talk about the top thing, I'm like, I agree with Aristotle, even though like I wouldn't consider myself much of an Aristotelian. Like, it is true, some people are just like meant to be slaves, though. You know, they kind of are because I look at like former colonized countries like Indonesia this past in the World Cup, right? They were literally waving the flags of their former colonizers, the Netherlands, and it was like one of the largest gatherings ever in the country of like 280 million people were like rooting for a country of their colonizers, and it was only like what, a a 17 million country, like in terms of like the population. So yeah, no, I think to me, some people both and the conscious and subconscious level like to be, you know, subjugated, or like they like to be in reference in their colonial masters, like the, you know, their former slave masters, you know.
Let me respond to Sascal. He calls it natural, Fatima. If people desire to be slaves, it is because they surrendered their agency, not because we are naturals. No, they don't have any. They never had agency from the beginning. They never became
Yeah.
sovereign individuals. They're basically perpetual children. They're permanently stunted in their development.
Hmm.
They never gave up their agency because they never had it in the first place.
Hmm. Yeah, I would say so too. Yeah, but like, and
But what
also
you
like just
said
the
is
fact
true because it's not just which country did you say Indonesia or
Indonesia, it's a former a Dutch colony. They were colonized by the Dutch for like hundreds of years. Yeah.
right? But you can even look at more like recent. Okay, you can look at India, you can look
And
at
British.
Iraq. You know those
Yeah.
infidels in Iraq. You would think that they would actually resent America for taking over like that. No,
No.
they're a lot of them will betray their own people, and they worship America. They want to suck America's dick and get on one of those government contracts.
Exactly, and the people who actually do that actually become like the head of state. You know that, like the head of state now during this whole war, right? They're like the most pro-American government, even though the people there are not pro-American. Like, yeah, like no, they're not exactly. So this goes everywhere, you know. Like, let's go even in Africa. There's some places in Africa that like to be French, you know, economic zones. They don't really desire freedom, even though they can. There used to be a lot of like French, I mean, former African leaders who desired autonomy, you know, but like their leaders rather just be, you know, vassals of the French state, and the people don't care, you know, they just are placid about it, very, very complicit people, you know, and I agree with that too. Governments are their people, their representatives. Well, for people who don't care, of course, I don't think I'm a good like little cog in the machine for my country, so I'm kind of exempting myself from that, and I think you would too, you know.
Seskel says, does it make it okay for their children? Well, apparently they think that it is okay, which is why they procreate under the state, knowing that their children don't actually own their lives and the children don't have any real rights. So they are perfectly okay with it. They will double down. They don't think they have done any harm by putting their children in the system. So yeah, they think that it is okay. They don't, and they actually think their children should be grateful.
Yeah, it's weird. It's really weird and fucked up that they think that they think this is okay, and it's okay to have people here. It's really weird and dumb and just reckless behavior, you know. Especially if you already know. I think everyone has an idea they don't really own their countries. Like, as I said in the comments, democracy is a god that's failed. That's Hans Hermann Hoppe. He's like a anarcho capitalist. Yeah,
Well,
and yeah, Aristotle did believe.
and to respond to your comment, Aristotle did believe in a state, but he believed that the state was organic and that because people are natural slaves, they need natural masters. He believed that the state was necessary.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, because he believes some people were that, and it goes in the other comment, like, because he actually defended slavery, so it goes hand in hand. Like, he thought some people were natural slaves, so that's why the government is like needed. But I don't think he took into consideration that some people could be free. Like, they're kind of, I don't want to sound like this, but they could be a bit more advanced or superior in terms of like intellect and like capabilities, and thus they can just be better off alone. But that's for a few. Oh, look at Wishy Vishy. It's been a while since I talked to her.
Yeah, I just talked to her the other day on her channel. It was
How you
actually a
doing?
really interesting discussion.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm going. Well, provided I'm able to raise enough money, I'm going to be doing that myself. Not necessarily in school, but through my organization. So I do have a
Nice.
plan for things that I don't think I'm going to implement them in 2026, but I will at least get things filed and start making things happen so I can hit the ball running or hit the ground running in 2027.
That's good. It's always good to have exposure. Yeah.
Yeah, this is really. I mean, I
Fun.
think that's one of the more compelling chapters in my book was chapter 8, where I did discuss the natural slaves because a lot of people just assume that the problem is just the state. It's like, no, the people
No.
are the state.
Oh, yeah, of course. Absolutely. Yeah. Because I think I said this by myself before. I said, like, governments are their people. Governments represent their people. It doesn't matter how bad they are, but they're a reflection, and the people don't do anything, so they give the incentive to be ruled over.
No, AVG is doing this whole anti-feminist shit where she's acting like, oh, it's not up to me, it's up to my husband. I'm just going to defer to him. I'm going to
Wow.
defer to my husband and God. Like, I'm sorry, she does not strike me as a feminist in any way, shape, or form. I didn't want. I mean, she did take cheap shots in that debate, which I'm not offended at all. What did she say? She said the
Ha.
anti-nihilists are not sending their best. I didn't. I don't think I really took cheap shots. I did say that she was violent, which I think is accurate, but I don't think she's really this whole submissive woman that she's portraying. Like, I think she's a dominating ball buster, and I'm not saying that to be offensive. Like, she's not that. That's not who she is as a
I
woman.
mean, it's
She's
okay if
very
it
dominant.
is. Like,
I mean,
yeah, yeah,
what
yeah.
man
I
is
get
going to
that, man.
expect her to submit?
Exactly. Like, it doesn't make any sense. She comes out as very, excuse my language here, even though I'm not very apologetic, very, like, she and stuff like that, very, like, condescending, demanding, always wanting stuff her way, and she'll act like a bitch if she doesn't. Yeah. It's
But
just
I
how it is.
guess when conservatives get married, I guess behind closed doors they submit to their husbands. At least that's what they want us to believe. I
Hmm.
don't believe it. You're not fooling me at all.
No, that's fake. No, no, they're always like butting heads with one another to see who actually controls like the family and the marriage and like the mortgages and the bills. Oh, what was this? All the slavery shall not naturally officially theoretically blind. I
No,
mean,
I have no faith in Tallarico, but I'm just.
yeah,
I
I knew.
hope to. It's not because I support him per se. I
Yeah,
just whoever wins, I want a seat at the table. I would like to get in there and I don't even know if he would listen to me, but we'll see what happens.
well, he seems right now. He seems to be very, very open, I guess you can say. But as I said, he'll probably be captured by like the system, the American like void Leviathan, and then he will be just another establishment or like something like that. I meant to say good.
Yes, the legal system is rigged. It absolutely is.
Yeah, for sure. I should know that because I had a run in with it after my car crash, and it is rigged. Yeah, like they were not being conceding at all. Hmm. Life Sims will tell you.
Yeah, I had breakfast a long time ago.
Mm.
I don't even know if it was real. It was more a brunch. What did I have? I probably shouldn't say because it wasn't vegan. Let me stop. Okay, part of it was vegan. I had some cereal. The
Ah,
fruity pebbles with the marshmallows. Those are so good.
oh, that's good. Yeah, I like Fruity Pebbles.
Well, um, I wanted maybe I don't know. I wanted to get more people, but I guess I can try to do this again, like on a Friday night or something. When maybe I can get Brother Marcus to come up here because we haven't heard from him in a while.
Oh yeah, he's doing good. Yeah, he's doing good. Yeah, I talked to him on like a Discord. Yeah, yeah, he's one of the more like intelligent ones I've met online.
I
For
don't know
sure.
if Chickpea is still here. She said she wanted to come up.
Mm. Well, the link is right there. I see Daniela and their poops there. Women are more rebellious than men. Men tend to love slavery more. Job learned to love his slavery to God, but his unnamed wife questioned it. Yeah, that's kind of good. It kind of makes sense. Like the whole like of feminist dilemma of always questioning authority. That kind of goes in with like feminism. Like it's found in the Bible too. A woman will be like disobedient to the state or like to like hierarchies. And I can definitely sympathize with that. Even though like I like modern day feminism too much because they can be a bit, corrosive and toxic with blaming men all the time. Like I have problems with men too. Of course I do all the time, but like I don't think they're the fault of everything, like and I don't think it's just inherent thanks to what you have in between your pants and your chromosomes, right? I don't think that's correct. I'm not like a biological determinist in a strong way. I am, but not very strongly. I do think there's nuance and some varieties. Oh, hey, Set Skills, what's up?
Hello,
How you
how's
doing, Dom?
everyone doing?
Huh?
So, how are you all doing?
I'm doing good. I just had myself some. I'll just say what I have right now: a pizza, a mushroom pizza. So it's pretty good.
Oh, it does sound good.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody has actually read my book. That's interesting. Yeah, I do appreciate all the support.
Yeah. Very interesting philosophy you have here, Ellie. It's very unique. Like you definitely did thought it out through, and you actually I thought about this. You actually read like the sources in your channel, like Rousseau, David Hume, Aristotle. it's really great stuff. You got me into like Hume and Rousseau, and I'm reading Hume right now. His treatise of human nature. It's influencing how I view like reality and metaphysics and like, religion in some ways. It's not a lot though, but I would say I agree with about 60% of what he says. Yeah, it's good. And then there's Rousseau, who's very interesting. I like him a lot too.
Well, it was a lot of material in the book to try to synthesize, but that's why I try to go back to some of these sources and just address them, individually.
Mm.
Um, because I did use the term natural slave, and I think a lot of people don't know where that term came from. Like, I didn't just make that up.
No, it's from Aristotle. Aristotle like argued that some people are just like natural slaves, which I think Dom would like not agree with, right? Because I think you said that in the comments, right?
No, I don't agree with that.
Mm.
However, I would ask, I said this in the comment, and I assume this is the case. I'm pretty sure, but I don't think Aristotle actually did any real work. He's very sedentary,
He didn't
right?
do any real work. What do you mean?
Like he's led
like
a sedentary lifestyle.
I think he did like some like army work. Like he was like a like a diplomat to the to like his state of Athens, which was like its own like country, its city state Athens. I think he was that.
So he did
I mean,
nothing physical, no physical stuff.
But that's
no
his
physical.
point. That was his point, though. He said that those who were built for physical labor and lacked the capacity to reason, those are natural slaves. So he wasn't built for physical labor, which makes him a natural master. I mean,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
just that in and of itself, but also the fact that he could actually, you know, think about how societies should be structured because natural slaves don't have that ability.
Yeah.
Well, I've got to say, it's pretty illogical of him to say that because someone is physically built or robust, that they are illogical or incapable of thinking. Although I think that this comes from, like, I know in Rome, they basically thought if you had money, you were smart. And if you didn't have money, you weren't smart.
Oh, well, of course, yeah. That was like the higher back then, like late antiquity in Greco-Roman time. It was very hierarchical and elitist. So yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, I think it's better to understand these thinkers in like their cultural and social context. Like Aristotle thought he was the best because he was a teacher and like was in like the higher realms because he was a aristocrat. He was born into an already wealthy family in Athens, so he would think that. But he did study like like a nature. He did study like animals and stuff like that too. So he did go out and he did like record like what we call like modern day biology. He was already doing that. But yeah, he was mainly just like kind of like a armchair person, like 50% of his life, and then towards the end he did like go out and scout for his school, the Lyceum, to study like animals, plants, and like the sun, and like
Right,
the
but
sea.
even aside from this reading what Aristotle said, you can observe human nature.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
want to be slaves. Even when you try to tell them, even when you try to teach them to liberate themselves, they will attack you. And I'm sure you've probably encountered this yourself. They don't want to be free.
No, they don't like. And like exactly, like I kind of said this to like in my own head. I'm like, whenever you try to convince people they are trapped, they tell you to like fuck off or screw off. They tell you, oh, you're too idealistic, you're unrealistic, you're gaslighting. Oh, you are mistaken. Yeah, they just say these things to you, or like they don't really care for freedom because like it doesn't sound or like act like it. Like it's almost like they enjoy like their level. And as I know, I brought up Indonesians literally clapping for their former colonizers in the World Cup. The Dutch, but in Iraq, there's people who like Americans, destroying their countries and like their historical and like religious sites, and they're okay with that.
One of the reasons that people think this way is because or I should say they react this way, their thoughts are not actually their own. They're not authentic thoughts when someone expresses disdain against their own freedom. Generally, although I will say there are exceptions, most people are regurgitating the thoughts and values of someone else. And a lot of the time, I don't even think they realize where they got these values
Mm.
just from watching the media, listening to the news, going to church, hearing all these people tell you how chaotic the world is and how garbage you are and how you need to be dependent on their authority. These ideas program people's minds and guide their actions.
But that's
It's
the point, though. That's what natural slaves do. Children, yes, you can indoctrinate them, but children will eventually grow out of it and learn to think on their own. Natural slaves never grow out of it. They always
no.
will. They're corrigible. They're impressionable. You can program them like a damn computer,
Mm.
and then this is the way they will be for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, because if you try and show them any other way, they will be scared to even take a risk when possibly the risk is probably going to save them and their freedom, right? Like, it's crazy to me. And like, who is raising the like? I agree that man is kind of is just like a receptor of things, right? But there comes a point where he has to realize maybe I am just regurgitating their points, and I think a lot of people do come to that point where like, yes, I am just repeating words that are not mine, but I don't know any other way, so oh well. And like, and that's what kills like their ambition or spirit, if they even had it. It was probably already kind of weakened already when they realized it. But that realization of not being in control of your thoughts and like your like words because you've been in a mass way, global way, indoctrinated, that kind of would discourage anyone. Most people, I don't feel discouraged by it. I kind of just bite the bullet and say, all right, this is what it is. So, but I'm not gonna cave in to it anymore. It's always about self rectifying yourself.
So I'm trying to figure out what your disagreement is. Like, you're basically affirming what Aristotle said. You said that they are indoctrinated. That's why they're natural slaves.
You're talking about me?
Yeah.
So the thing is, sovereignty is innate in each individual, and each individual is responsible no matter whose thoughts are in their minds, no matter what substance they put in their body, of how they use and expend their energy in the world through their vessel, the body, which basically just
Mm.
contains the essence of their life. Doesn't matter who told you to do what, you chose to do it at the end of the day. And in their hearts, the people desire slavery because they don't know any other way or they're fearful. But this does not mean that the human being, just because we have external systems imposed on us, is a slave internally.
It's not. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not imposing them. They impose it on themselves. Even if you gave them freedom, they will find somebody to rule over them. This is the way that they are.
No, it's the way they've been taught. And
You
if
can't
you
read.
educate
Okay,
people,
okay, but
here, let me just say this, okay? Our generation, I think, is screwed. There's no saving our generation, but we can
Agreed.
plant the seeds for future generations so that they can become more self-sufficient.
okay, but
If
didn't you attend public school like everybody else?
I did.
Yeah, the very small, poor one.
Okay, and so did I. But for some reason, I was not the same as them. I'm not a natural slave. I was indoctrinated just like them, and yet I was still able to see through the bullshit. I looked, I researched, I had my own independent thought, even my parents could not indoctrinate me in a way that actually stuck. So there's something about them. You can't yes, you could indoctrinate a child, but eventually they will wake up and realize the truth. These people will never realize the truth because they don't want to.
Well, school itself is a very artificial environment that forces children to be up at like 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock at a specific location surrounded by other people their age. taking directions and following orders from an authority figure. So already we have been set up for failure just right there. But that's already a very hard thing for most people to come out of.
Yeah, but like I think we're at another point. You see, our generation is screwed because of another thing is that like we're like extremely self aware of our current situations. That like majority of the things before us were fake and gay, for lack of a better word, and what's gonna come after us because like of certain things like we're kind of just giving ourselves to like other external factors such as hybrid of like a human controlled government and a hive mind government of AI, right? So like that's already happening in like Dubai and Albania right now. Even though the people are protesting, they're still gonna like implement those things around like Albania, like the Trump and like the not Trump but his son-in-law Jared Kushner to set up a resort there. And unfortunately, it pains me to say it, but like no matter how many times the Albanian people will like rebel, they're still gonna because like Albanian protests, while they're pretty strong, they're not strong as they should be. And I think kind of goes with like the passivoid nature of like most humans, because like they're literally building like an Epstein style like resort and like Albanian island, and the people hate it. But yet, if I was them and I was all of them, I would start a war over there. Like, as I don't want that in my country, you know.
Set scales. If you think that there's no such thing as a natural slave, then what is your explanation for what you see before with your own two eyes? Why are humans so docile and submissive? Why do they're in the majority, yet they still submit to the tiny, tiny 1% that rules over them? And they look forward to it. They enjoy life, and they have no problem putting their own children in this system. There's something defective about their constitution.
Well, I could answer it, and I'm going to try and answer it as briefly as I can, because it would be a very lengthy answer, but as simply and briefly as I can put it. It basically comes down to some people have figured out how to convince many people to give up their authority, their sovereignty, because they gave them things that admittedly were not there before. And they gave them a belief system that was designed to keep future generations entrapped within the systems that these people designed. And this mythology basically tells them that they're garbage and they need the guidance of some divine authority.
Okay.
And we can't come out of this thinking.
But
it was
I
always
need
there.
more clarification, because they're not upset about it. They're not slaves begrudgingly. They love it. They're happy. They enjoy life. They don't have a rebellious bone in their bodies. They have no problem with their children being slaves. So why? I mean, because me, yes, I'm a slave too, but I don't like it. If you gave me the opportunity, I would do something to change the system. These people are not like us. They love it. There's nothing they would change.
They seem to just like, and as I said, like they don't really like do much to change it. Of course, as I gave you that example in Albania, they're protesting, but like it's not enough to really stop the building of that resort. And like if human nature was that easy to like control, then like weren't we always like meant to be conditioned at least to like be just like natural slaves? Maybe at some point back then we were freer, but maybe some humans just had like a lower evolved, I don't know, like spirit or consciousness that like they were very easy to like manipulate, and then for generations they became the natural slave. They naturalized themselves to be slaves or something like that. I don't know.
The reason that they won't do anything to dismantle the system is because they are acting according to their nature. It's not a struggle. It doesn't bother them. They are as happy as pigs and shit. They love it. They love being wage slaves. They love submitting and being subjugated. This is not hell for them. This is heaven. They love it. This is the best system that has ever. Well, they feel protected. They feel they're getting provided for. As long as they have the potential to make money and to, I guess, to consume shit, they're perfectly content with it. This is who they are. What, like Maya Angelou said, when someone tells you or shows you who they are, believe them the first time. You're giving them way too much credit to say that that's not. No, I'm telling you, this is exactly who they are.
Who was humanity before civilization? We weren't this fearful species who crowded around an authority figures to tell us what to do. We
Well,
took
there's two
action
people.
for ourselves and we lived in harmony with nature.
Mm. So pretty much like what like kind of like what Rousseau said, and back then, like earlier this month, I was into Hobbes. Right, there's like two people that kind of like had opposing views. Hobbes was like man was brutish and they needed authority, the life, and then there's Rousseau that says that no, man was okay before like advanced authority, civilization, and statehood came in. Yeah, and I like Rousseau now, so I could see that. I could concede halfway to that point, but like I would say that like unfortunately for us, like just that I think there's a lot of like evolution. I don't know. I still believe in it. There's some biological or like evolutionary like predispositions for some humans to just be like in natural slaves. I'm not trying to make this like anything like racial, but for all people in all countries, they find themselves to be like natural obedient people. Yeah, like you'll find these people everywhere in America, in Europe, and Asia, and Africa, and the Middle East, and Southeast Asia, India. You'll see them everywhere. Yeah, like I will give flack to my own people inside Latin America. Like Onyx are very submissive to like the American like way. Like they don't care if like their governments are like being like infringed or like being like infiltrated by America. They seem to like it, and it annoys me, but it's whatever, like they like having a McDonald's. They like having their economies and resources screwed up by like foreign companies. It's almost like they kind of like enjoy it. I just don't know. It's just how it is for some people, and that's a long time ago too. Like, could we ever revert back to those eras? And at least in a psychological way, I don't know.
Okay, I would like to respond to this comment. If civilization is so bad, how come everyone moving to civilized parts of Africa? Because it's a race to the bottom. Because it's like once they see people with these big houses and these cars, they're looking at it and now they're comparing themselves. Once that's the
Hmm.
reason why civilization is so terrible, because it does have a corrupting influence. It leads to greed and corruption, and these people were not greedy and corrupt before civilization was forced on them. So yes, they see the material goods and they think that, oh, these people have a better life because they don't know anything about it. But the opposite is also true. The people who live in civilized society are always trying to escape it. They're always trying to go to nature. They don't like it. They hate their 9 to 5 jobs. They want to go out and swim and be with the birds and the they love. I'm trying to figure out why do people always want to escape civilization and be in touch with nature if nature is so horrible? It's the opposite of what you're saying is actually true. People go to nature to escape civilization because they're not happy.
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, that's what the Ted Kaczynski. That's what that person did. The U bomb. Yeah, that's what he did. Because I'm not sure if we can say his name. But he's like a very famous one. There's like a lot of people too. There's more like less crazy ones like Henry David Thoreau. I think you guys have heard of him once, right? Henry David Thoreau. He made a cabin near like in New England near like the pond of Walden. His friend owned that pond. It was Ralph Waldo Emerson, but he gave it to him, and he like set up a cabin there for like 4 years. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of people leave. Society and the state to be at peace with themselves and their surroundings. That's very true, especially in our world back then. Yeah. But unfortunately, they've been corrupted by civilization. So like they do have this like very strong desire to come back to civilization. So yeah.
You know, the philosopher Heraclitus did this and retreated to nature. And I think Heraclitus, even though I agree with Parmenides and quote him all the time, I think Heraclitus is very smart and very intelligent and accurately dissected the problem of civilization. The problem was he just thought it applied to all of existence. Civilization is constantly trying to become something it's not. And it wants to be this idyllic, harmonious place where humans are in complete control of the entire earth. Like if you listen to scientists describe a type 1 civilization, they say it's a species that has full control over all the energy on their home planet. And that's what counts for being a good civilization. That's what counts for being an advanced civilization. It has to do with being in control of the energy on your planet. But they neglect the energy of within themselves and how to control themselves. And Heraclitus, he saw this in civilization, and he retreated to the nature, the woods, because he couldn't stand people. He saw them being basically caricatures of themselves, of what they could be.
Yeah. That's true, and that's still true today. In fact, there's more caricature self delusional people that think overtly about themselves when like their actual real authentic selves are not really here yet, even though they think they have everything. They really don't. So they end up just being these stereotypes of what it means to be human. That's why I think Max Stirner said this, that man is a self-creative nothing, because we kind of are, like to be an ideal human, you kind of have to like reject everything you learned about, society and be a creative self nothing. You must always be versatile with what you know and what you are. That's what Max Stirner said.
There's someone who I think offers a pretty good diagnosis of the problem and offers the solution is Carl Jung.
Oh, Jung.
Yeah. He talks about egregores. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with egregores, but egregores are basically they're basically beliefs or ideas that people have in the world about how they should live in the world or about what they think the world is. Everyone has these ideas about the world or worldview. And an egregore is basically when many people come together with the same beliefs about the world and form a collective thought pattern that guides their actions. And this is an egregore. It's the beliefs of the collective forming essentially a boundary of information that they formed that affects how they live. And that's the problem, is we basically worship and idolize egregores. And his solution is basically to do shadow work, to look within ourselves as individuals, understand our worldviews and how they affect other people and guide our actions, and work to bring out our real self, which is who we really want to be, not what the collective wants us to be based off of their belief.
I think the point is the natural slave doesn't even know who he is or who he's supposed to be. He's told who he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So the natural slave believes he's a citizen. Um, he will get like titles of nobility. He can become an esquire. He can become a mayor, right?
Huh.
But he doesn't create anything of it on his own. He just basically benefits from his master's system, his master's household. It's not his household, but he still seems to take pride in it.
Also, one more interesting thing about Jung is that he considered himself a Kantian. That's really interesting to me. A Kantian, like Immanuel Kant. It's very, very interesting to me.
Yeah.
But in his
Yeah, go ahead.
and like his view that you said to me kind of reminds me of like Heidegger's like a das man, or like das die. It's called like the days. You know, like it's like there's like the crowd of people who are inauthentic and they are getting being. The question of being is for being is already forgotten about by the mass man, or like the day man. You know, like they are over there. Yeah, it's called the the day man. And so it's up to the individual who can understand that, you know, we're in like a dire straits of like a lacking of authenticity and lacking of, you know, being. It's to always be self-reflective of their death and their meaning in life and their grounding of it, and not be corroded by, you know, other in the words of Heidegger, like old metaphysics and like the later Heidegger technology. And what else did he say? And yeah, I think that's what he said. And like he grounds everything in the question of being in ontology. So definitely interesting, you know, like always being aware of your existence. But he did say that like not everyone is going to be up to the task of knowing being or themselves, or knowing their relation to a mortality and death, if they're going to cling to old metaphysics and like old religion, you know. So that's what he argued. It was Heidegger that said that, yeah.
Oh, I personally think that the older you go back in metaphysics, the more they understand what they're talking about.
Mm. Well, he did say this. Heidegger did say that at one point back then we had true being in ontology. It's just that since the Greek rationalists like Plato, Aristotle, and Socrates, it started with Plato, we have been forgetting being. And Heidegger argues that Plato ruined everything in philosophy. Like he ruined the question of being in human like thought, you know. Like, not more ruined, but more so he misunderstood the problem, and like that problem has been the giant mistake of Western philosophy for the past 2,000 years up until he wrote Being and Time. So yeah.
I absolutely agree. I don't know the exact reasons he says. Maybe you can tell me how if I align with him or not. But Plato, he tries to merge being and becoming, and in doing so, ends up separating them by basically saying we live in this material world that sucks and is even built by the demiurge, which he has a different view of the demiurge than the Gnostics. To him, it's a good thing.
Yeah,
But
he influenced Christian theology, so he did think that the craftsman God was good. Yeah.
yeah, that's another topic. But anyway,
Yeah,
and
of
then
course.
all the way over here, who knows where? It's so far away, it's beyond us. Is this perfect place of becoming, or like the heavens, and it's just unattainable to us here. And
Yeah.
between it is, you know, who knows? There's this vast separation between us and this place. And in doing so, he basically removes I'm sure not in his mind, but he basically removes the spirit from the forms he goes on about.
Yeah, he kind of does, right? Not only that, but like, Aristotle kind of also noticed it too. He wanted to ground things within forms. He wanted to ground spirit and forms. That's Aristotle's point of view, and that's why he's considered the first empiricist. Because he wanted to study things, like analyze and classify things. Plato thought that you couldn't really do that with the forms, which are outside of us. They are away from us. They're not in us anymore. We're just a shadow or a reflection, a poor imitation of these things. And there is an ideal world out there that we must do either through training, self-rectifying, studying math, and like if you were Plato, possibly wrestling men, because he was a wrestler who wrestled a lot of men, weirdly enough, or in a very, very weird manner. We'll just say that, yeah. So yeah, you could do either of those things, but that leaves a big gap within Western ontology. It does, because like there's the forms and there's the matter. How do we ever reconcile these things in any way that is meaningful and coherent in our lives? And how we view the world, and what if?
Answer is obvious.
Yeah,
To
of
me,
course.
at least. I mean, I know a lot of people don't realize this, but
Oh yeah.
you, literally you, me, everyone around us, we are the bridge between being and becoming, or heaven and earth.
Mm,
It's us
yeah.
through our actions and our choices. And this is the responsibility that the West denies. And in doing so, they just generate all this chaos because they think they can control it. But in trying to control it, they just make it more volatile. I mean,
Mm,
it's like if you're in the ocean and it's really dark and still, and you're like, okay, I'm really scared because I don't know what's going to be in front of me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move and shine all this bright light everywhere in a way that generates these huge currents, which are going to come back to me unknowingly. They don't know this, and affect what could be a peaceful navigation in the ocean.
Hmm.
So it's basically like we're generating currents of actions
yeah.
which are going to come back to us in negative ways
Mm,
because we don't understand that we are the bridge. And the way to bridge heaven and earth, or being and becoming, is through aligning with the principles of sovereign authority, respecting each being's responsibility over their sovereign self.
mm.
This is why humanity fails, or has been failing, I should say.
Ah, okay.
I don't know. I still think we're giving humans too much credit. If they were sovereign, then they would actually demonstrate sovereign qualities. They're not sovereign because they actually are not made that way. It's not in their nature. They're acting according to their nature, which is to be subjects. You don't see. It's not a struggle. It's not like it's difficult, like they're miserable or that they want to be something else. They are exactly what they want to be. This is in their nature.
But how long has it been in our nature? And what is human nature? Like psychology and neuroscience will literally tell you the brain is plastic, which would basically mean that human nature changes and can change. So we can come out of this way of thinking just like we've come into it.
Well, okay, I guess I didn't get through all of that, but Aristotle basically said, okay, if you live in a state of nature, you're either a god or a beast. But Aristotle basically says that most of these people are just beasts. So basically, the natural masters have to rule over them the same way they would rule over cattle because they don't have the capacity for independent reasoning.
They don't.
So if you basically put most of these human beings in the same category as animals, then you see why they behave the way that they do.
The problem with this line of reasoning, and I even point this out in one of my videos, it's pretty much this. This is the foundation of Greek thinking because it's right there in the myth of the labyrinth. I can't remember the guy's name, but the guy who goes into the labyrinth and slays the Minotaur. What does this symbolize? This symbolizes that man has a connection to the animal kingdom, and we willingly choose to kill that connection by channeling within our minds and our subconscious, symbolized by traveling through the labyrinth, to slay the animal nature within ourselves. So when we look at the animals around us, we think, oh, they're not like us. They need to be controlled. They need to be guided. This is already false thinking. The animals need to live their life the way the animals know how, and we are very capable of coexisting with the animals. And humans, is the same thing. Humans aren't animals. We're different from animals, but we have animals within us. But that doesn't mean we need to go out there and slay and control the animals like what Aristotle's saying, because he believes in myths like what I just told you. We need to live in harmony and balance with the world around us.
I don't know. I think I'm looking at it from the other perspective. It's not about human beings wanting to go out and dominate animals or even dominate other human beings. They naturally submit themselves. No, not really. I don't know. I mean, I guess like a horse, you can break the horse in, but at a certain point, they just naturally submit. It's just in their nature. Like I don't think you can change these human beings. I think they're a lost cause. I don't think they want to be free.
And I think if I can do like a granting of your two's, like a granting of like your both's perspective, I think at one point man long ago was free, but a long ago, same at the same time, he was some of them had like lower, like I guess like capacities to be self-reliant and free, and there were some ones that were just become, there were some people who became very malicious for whatever reason, and they decided to exploit those people way back then, and now we're dealing with those ramifications now. Unfortunately, these people with these weak capacities just spread every world. Their mindset has spread everywhere, and I think it's kind of just how it is now. It has replaced the world that what could have been or what was way back then, back when we were more free, more in tune with the state of nature. I guess more egalitarian in some ways back then. Not saying I wasn't sure, but maybe And I just think if in order for us to go back, we have to have a lot of like I don't know, like a almost like a near constant awareness and maybe revolution of these things because it won't go like easy down. This whole like naturalized mindset of being like a slave because like I think that by the time it reached Aristotle's point of view, it's already been here for a long time because slavery was in like the ancient Mesopotamians, Egypt, the Minoan civilization, and Aristotle saw that. I was like, okay, well, this is just how it is, and in some ways, it was kind of right because, well, the way that people viewed history back then was pretty interesting. If they saw something that was unquestioned in their times, they're like, okay, it's always going to be this way. They didn't have like this urge to like reform like their philosophies or thought because they thought that their thoughts and philosophies were just a reflection of like the natural great chain of being in their eyes, and that kind of like becomes like a leftover in Christianity, because Greek philosophy did influence Christianity. It's because the world is allegedly intelligible. So they have that attitude and mindset of like the Platonics and the Aristotelians, to like no reason, and like there's form, and then there's matter, there's separation, and time is like linear. Even though I think that's more of a Christian thing, because I think that the Greeks had like a unique view of time too.
By the time of Aristotle, slavery had been in place for about 3,500 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, so according to him, it was normal.
Allais brought up something. He said that the people are broken to it. And there's one person, Robert Higgs, he's an economist, and he's pretty much an anarchist scholar. And one of the things that he says is that he talks about the ratchet effect. And he talks about how the people become broken over time in the same way that one breaks an animal to be housebroken or conditioned to living to human standards. And he says they used catastrophes as catalysts to propel legislation or emergency actions that are going to solve whatever catastrophe or emergency that arises. And then after the emergency passes, the state does not relinquish the power, and the people become broken to it because the state does it at a rate that numbs the people, and it's not so fast. It's this form of encroachment. So it happens gradually over time until eventually you compare where we were to 25 years from now, it's almost like a different country. But the ratchet effect is basically a metaphor for a ratchet that only goes one way, and then when you turn it the other way, it's only so that you can turn it again with a good grip without wasting time. And so it only tightens, the government only tightens its control, and the people become more and more broken over time, essentially conditioned by the government through catastrophes and emergency actions that they do not relinquish. Which I think is actually the plot of Star Wars. That's what they do in episode 3. You guys there?
Sorry, I had to go wash my hands, but no, I heard you. Yeah. Well, I definitely. Who is this? Robert Higgs, right? I know this is my first time hearing about him. I'm definitely going to look him up. Anarchist scholar. Yeah, I need to know more anarchist scholars. I will. Well, there's already like a lot of like a conservative scholars, a Marxist scholar. So I definitely need to update my anarchist scholar reading list. I know like the philosophers like a Bakunin, a Lul, Proudhon as a Kropotkin. They will take every opportunity away from you to be for you to be refused to give you made. Yeah, no, like actually, LA, I actually came to say this too. Like I'm actually full on board with the whole like made a proposal now. Like after much certain circumstances that's happened in my life, I'm like, yeah, like wouldn't mind having access to that some days, honestly.
Well, here's the thing about though is that it's not just the state that is against it; it's the natural
People.
slaves who are against it themselves.
Yes,
they don't want self-ownership. They want the state to have the power to force them to exist against their will. They vote against their own rational self-interest. They're the most irrational animals on the planet. Um, they can only, they're basically just an extension of the master. They don't have any independent reasoning. The fact that the state is against it means they must be against it. It's
Mm.
everything that I said. I'm not sure why this is controversial. Like they just aren't. They just aren't. Or the words of Paula Deen, "I is what I is." You know, they're just slaves. They can't change their nature.
But they can have kids, and they most certainly will have kids. I know you don't want them to, but these kids can do better than their parents. They have the
Yeah.
potential, and the potential needs to be maximized for them. That's what basically needs to happen.
With limited exception, the kids will turn out exactly like the parents.
All we need to do is get
Yeah.
the numbers or the rates up just a little bit and have them grow gradually and slowly, and that will be enough.
I think I don't know about that.
Well,
Gradually and slowly.
the problem is that democracy is majoritarian. So even if you have a small percentage that is liberty minded, most of them they're being outpaced, and so the natural slaves outpace the unnatural slave, and so they're going to win every time.
We could use momentum until at some point, it could be decades, who knows, but at some point, the natural slaves will start to be outpaced by the people who are sovereign minded or minimalist minded or however they choose to value freedom.
They don't value it at all. They don't even think about it.
Well, that's the point. The future generations, if we maximize the potential to learn about it, will. And if they actually know what it means to us, more importantly.
I'm trying to figure out what indication you have that this is going to happen. Like, there's nothing right now showing that the younger generation is more libertarian than future generations. Like, they're more dystopian and more hardcore status. Like they're getting
They're more
more
depressed too.
trinkets to distract them. They're getting the iPhones, the social media, the new Teslas. They're more controlled now than ever. I think it's actually going in a worse direction. They're not getting better than their
Yeah.
parents.
Mm. No, they're actually a reflection of the parents, except more amplified because our generation, Gen Z. I'm Gen Z. I think Dom is too older than Gen, but I'm pure Gen Z, and I can tell you that my generation is very based on like superficial vanity. You know, it is. They're a bit more educated about like certain stuff and like like conspiracies and histories might be, but even that's a bit like of like a problem because like then they'll come to false conclusions without like a constant refinement of ideas. But for lack of a better word, we're just fucked, you know, like because all we care about is is ourselves even more. Because we have this idea of like, hey, no one cares, and I'm depressed already, so I'm just gonna do whatever I want, and like that's what Gen Z is now. You know, they don't see a future for themselves because of AI, like late stage capitalism, and if you believe in it, global warming, climate change, right? That's kind of meh. Yeah, they don't see a future for themselves. AI, I think I already said that. I'm not sure, but yeah, they just don't see like a positive future for themselves at all, and that's why they're not having too many kids anymore. They still are though. Like I don't buy in the whole like, oh, we're like gonna go extinct. Human birth declines. Yeah, but that's relative to what how it was back then. It's not. It's not like an absolute zero at level. Some countries are at zero, like in South Korea. There's only like 0.73 replacement rate, and like the ones that you need are 2.0. So yeah, they're probably gonna have some problems there, but still, like, and then again, like AI and like automation could just fill in the blanks. I don't want them to, but I don't think the powers that care about that. They just want efficiency and automation and self rectifying gains and resources and just a sense of domination as what good as what in their eyes good to do.
Our thoughts determine our labors, and what we put our attention to is what we will generate and create in the world. So if we think that we are just defeated, we will walk the path of defeatism.
Hmm.
If we think that our goal is to create some sort of higher machine that's going to replace us, that's what we're going to do. But if you're a person who values freedom, values your own life, and values the life of others, you can carve a path for yourself and potentially live a life and even maybe make future generations who are actually free and sovereign. Even if that means that they'll have to deal with burdens, it's possible because all things are possible. And what we put our attention to are the things we're most likely to make reality.
But what if it comes the case that like the main freedom spearheading movement decides what if technology could free us, because there's also that, because I'm starting to realize that like our type of rhetoric of like anti-tech and like anarchist and like civilization being, it's not really that popular or like a pervasive, right? Because the current trend now for like leading like political groups is to like use AI as like a neutral tool. That seems to be the case now, and I think it already infiltrated the systematic way of like life. It's as common now as cars or as phones now. So I think for a freer future, I think that's not possible because it'll be complex way, shape, or form. Because whether you like it or not, AI is not neutral. AI is very, very, domineering and wants to, like, become something more than us if it gains enough of a human consciousness, or it becomes like an artificial mind, which who knows what that could be. I don't
Well,
know. Hmm.
I think we have to ask ourselves then, if you want to go that direction, what exactly is an AI? Is it some sort of malicious demon or extra dimensional entity that wants to entrap humans? Or is it merely a reflection of our own thoughts and desires with the
To a lot of
randomness
people,
of eternity?
well, if you're
Because
gonna go the more like, hmm?
there is a randomness element to AI that
Well, if
they
you're
don't quite understand. I just wanted to put that out there.
gonna, there is, yeah, but do you think it could self-arrange and start to, that is, predictive humans, or there's no way it can do that? Because I think it could become more struck in the long term. I'm talking about long term, for because you said more generations, right? So like, what if
I don't
maybe
see
down in the line in the future? Hmm?
I don't see why it couldn't be like humans. It already is like humans in a way,
I know,
and we're
but what
molding it.
if it starts? But what if it starts to have all of the bad characteristics of humans and starts to amplify them? Because like leaders, authority are not always ontologically good. That's like kind of, what if it becomes the actual true reflection of us, and it becomes us with all the warts and all, and some bad AI. It's kind of like we have like another subspecies of like intelligence coming into being.
Well, That's exactly what we wanted. That's the point. Why is there another intelligence come into being? It's because that's what we put our attention and focus towards. That's what people get paid the big dollars to create. Something that's going to literally replace their children and make all their material gains worthless.
Yeah. Like post-humanism, that's what I'm trying to drive at too. What if the post-human future is possibly the only course right now? Because, like, as I said,
There's
like, I don't think
not from machines. No, I don't think so.
okay.
No. Even if let's say even if the
This,
machines did somehow exterminate all the humans, which I find very, very, very unlikely, the Earth would wipe them out.
the Earth. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Earth. Gaia.
Yeah,
Gaia herself.
I mean, humans have endured many catastrophes, and the robots, they're going to be privy to the catastrophes because they have access to all the information. But if they get hit
Yeah.
by big solar flares or magnetic pole shifts, and these things fry the satellites and scramble the data centers, or wherever is the source of the robots, I'm sure they have stuff underground.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think they're going to do very
Could
good.
be.
But I'm going to get
Yeah.
off.
Because then,
I'm going to,
okay.
Yeah, or you want to say something else before I get off?
I might go off too. LA, are you there? LA? Life Abolition.
I'm here. I'm about to get off too. But I do.
Okay.
I don't know. I guess I'll let you
Okay.
have the last word.
All right. I guess Dom could have the last word. Yeah.
I'm just going to say real quick that my Tower of Babel video is going to premiere in 20 minutes. And it relates to pretty much just about everything we've discussed in this conversation. And I tie it all to ancient history and mythology. Literally everything I was talking
All
about
right. I'll get.
there's some way or some form in that video.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're so right. AI is pro-life. I get so much pushback from when I talk about anti-natalism with AI. It is hardcore status. It doesn't support anarchy. So yeah, AI is I don't know. I guess it's helpful when it comes to synthesizing information, but it's so biased.
Yeah, it is extremely biased. Yeah, it's made by statists. What you expect it's going to be extremely biased towards people alternative viewpoint, unfortunately.
But it is very pro-vegan. I can say that much. It's against anti-natalism, but it's pro-vegan.
Yeah, that's very funny, actually.
So you should have more children and just I don't know, and just feed them some plants. It just doesn't make any sense. Like AI has no empathy for humans, just like humans.
Yeah, kind of striking now, isn't it? Yeah. I guess I'll say my final words because I do have to leave now. Thank you for having this stream, LA. It was a very good conversation, and you, Dom, it was good talking to you. I'll make sure to watch your video. I don't think I can watch the full live stream for a bit, but yeah, you can see me in the comments there, hopefully. But you, LA, for always doing these streams. You read, and that's like more than what like majority of people who I talk to and who you talk to on this channel do, and they do kind of misunderstand and mischaracterize a lot of things, when they shouldn't because they already know. But it's whatever. All right, see ya.
All right, I'll play all.
Yes, you too,
Thank
Dom.
both of you for coming out.
Absolutely. See ya.
All right.